Even we're joined with Van Den. How you going, Van?
Evening, mate. Great show.
Very good show. So we'll do it how we normally do it. Okay, so I'll hand it over to you to start taking us through the card, because obviously I didn't pick it up till Robbie Davies Jr., so take it away.
Okay, cool. Anybody that's joining us in the sidebar, same as usual, Carl will put the link on so you can join us on screen if you feel like it. If not, drop your comments and we'll read them out as we go. Okay, so I know, Carl, you only saw the live, didn't you? You didn't see anything before the bell stuff.
No.
So I'll go through a couple of them, and hopefully we get some people in the sidebar that comment on those parts as well. So I'll start with Cyrus Pattinson against Dimitri Trenon. Cyrus's fourth outing. It's been well documented that he's had a couple of fighters pull out on the fight day. So it's been frustrating for him. He was absolutely punch perfect, mate. Real quality. He's going places, Cyrus is. How are we doing, Sean? All right, mate?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you.
I'm just going through the Before the Bell show. I don't know if you saw any of it.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Great stuff. So, Cyrus Pattinson. I was just saying how I thought he was punch perfect.
Yeah.
Very spiteful, very aggressive, and real good combinations. I can see this kid going very, very far. How did you see it? What do you think of Cyrus?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I mean, I didn't realise that he had his last two fights postponed. I mean, you wouldn't have known it, the way he was performing. And I think, coming from the northeast as he does, he could bring it back properly for them up there.
Yeah. Okay. Next on the bill was John Hedges. John Hedges was in against Roberto Baltru. To be honest with you, this was a little bit disappointing. John Hedges didn't really get to show much because Baltru was just a punch bag. I don't really see the point in bringing fighters like that over. It makes no sense. You're seeing nothing. Hedges is getting nothing thrown back at him. Baltru landed one shot right at the very end of the fight, a hook, and all that did was got Hedges angry, and he finished the fight within two punches. I don't see how that helps him. I don't see how that progresses him. This was his sixth fight, and he's in against somebody that didn't want to throw a shot. The matchmaking needs to be a little bit better for these up and comers for me. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, John Hedges, it was like the first meaningful punch he threw him, really sort of spite that ended the fight. And he, as you say, he sort of needs to be brought in a bit better to improve his development, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Okay, so swiftly moving on. Sharon Clark was in against Pavel Martinak. This was a much more competitive fight. I got the feeling that Chevron was just loading up. And because of that, he got buzzed really early in the fight, didn't he? That first round. And maybe that's just a little bit of naivete in the pro ranks, because he was very good in the amateurs. It was only his second fight. I think he just needs a little bit of time to learn his way. Sometimes you get this, don't you? Where fighters want to impress that much that they load up. You can definitely see a good fighter in there. Do you agree with that, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, again, his opponent was a bit more durable. He'd had 12 fights before this, and you could kind of see that. I mean, this only went 3 rounds. But yeah, he just needs to take his time a little bit, in my opinion. He's got Tony Bellew sat there ringside, and obviously, being a cruiserweight himself, I'm sure he was trying to impress. Okay, moving on to the first show, the first fight on the live. Robbie Davis Jr. Against Molina, Javier Molina. I don't know about you guys, but I think they got this decision wrong.
I think he knew he got it wrong as well.
I thought Molina won the fight. Robbie Davis had was in spells. He had some great little patches where he was having lots of success, but he couldn't keep that going. I don't know whether that's his engine, but there was spells in the fight where he was really good. But the problem is, you can't just win a fight just on forward movement and forward aggression. When you use the forward movement and aggression, you got to land shots, and he wasn't doing it enough. Molina was much better. The movement was really good. He was landing clean shots. Yeah, a bit of a poor decision for me. And like Carl's just said, looks like it looked, didn't it, like Robbie Davis Jr. was a bit embarrassed by the decision at the end.
And DAZN still licked his arse afterwards as well by, saying when you watch it back, I think you'll feel better about the fight and all that bull.
I mean, he was very honest, wasn't he, in that interview at the end. Short of saying that he thought he lost the fight, because he's never going to say that, but he did say he was disappointed with the way he performed. I mean, we talked about Robbie Davis not getting the push, didn't we, on Thursday? Where do you see him going from here, Carl? Does he have a level? Does he have another level?
Well, for one, he fights in bursts, don't he? And that's not good enough to go up through the levels. I thought Molina was quite comfortable on the back foot.
Yeah,
I thought he was quite comfortable. So I'd say he has got a level. He was clearly disappointed with his performance. He didn't make no excuses. He said he had a good camp. Is he just not good enough? That's what I think might be the case. So yeah, I do think he's got a level. He ain't world level. I'm struggling to wonder whether he's European level. He don't look like he's got much pop either.
And you need that, don't you, at that next level?
Of course. So I think he's got a ceiling. What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, we mustn't forget as well, Shane McGuigan was a couple of seconds away from throwing the towel in, really.
Yeah.
So that's how close he was to being stopped. As you sort of said the other night, every sort of step up he's had, he's always showing like he can lose. And I think he's found his ceiling at this sort of minor European level, if you like to call it that. And it's hard to see how, as much as he talks about it, how he can win a world title. I just can't see it.
So just jumping in the sidebar, Carl. Jack Gladman says he felt Molina nicked it. Can't disagree. It's one of them. Sometimes it's the style you like, but you can't just, like I've just said, you can't just pick the aggression if the fighter's not, when he gets to the point where he's closing a fighter down, he's not throwing the shots and landing them. Yeah, a bit of an odd one for me. Shall we move on?
Yep.
Fourth from main card, Ellie Scottney against Maria Cecilia Roman. Now, leading up to this, obviously, Cecilia Roman has just come off a loss in a world title fight against Ebony Bridges, and I think you were saying, Sean, that you didn't know whether Ellie Scottney was going to be good enough to step up in in a 10-rounder. My personal opinion is she was outstanding tonight.
The only thing I would say, sorry, Sean, the only little alarm bell I had, she was quite agitated between rounds. Kept asking, what I made a note of it actually. I just put a note, she seemed very agitated, seemed almost distracted. She was worried whether she'd been cut or not. I just found her quite agitated in the corner. It's quite interesting.
Do you know what I thought was a little bit poor? Was the fact that she had to come in. She had to come in straight away, didn't she? When McGuigan had only just been in the ring. I didn't feel like she'd had the time to warm up properly.
But he would have known that, wouldn't he? He'd have known that beforehand.
Maybe, maybe so. But isn't that a poor effort on Matchroom's side? I know she got the win, so in the end it doesn't matter. But down the line, you can't be having a trainer have a fighter in a 10-rounder that it looks like it's going to go the distance, and then have that same trainer have an important fight.
Well, could argue it's McGuigan's fault. Why is he allowing it?
McGuigan don't make the decisions on the card, does it? That's the promoter.
You can see him push back hard enough, can't you? You've got some say.
Well, maybe he has. I'm sure McGuigan wouldn't have liked it. I'm sure. The last thing he wants to do is have to run out of the ring, get back to the changing rooms, and take your next fighter on the pads.
I'm not so sure it's a big deal. I'm not so sure it's a big deal anyway. You've got your staff. The game plan's already set out. It was just a case of warming him up.
I don't agree.
But if you feel it is a big problem, then I blame Shane McGuigan.
You need time with your fighter, in my opinion. You've got to have, even if it's just sitting there, calming him down, talking him through the game plan again. They had no time to do that. At the end of the day, he's a red trainer. No matter whether someone else takes her on the pads or not.
Well, then he shouldn't have allowed it to happen, should he?
Maybe he had no choice, mate.
He's got a choice.
They're Eddie Earns fighters. When it all comes down to it, they're Eddie Earns fighters.
He should have kicked him a fuss when he was planning the card. You could have moved a few of them fights around because some of them.
That's what I'm saying. But that's Eddie Earns. It's his promotion, mate.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's obviously McGuigan went along with it, or he wouldn't have. He should have pushed back.
Maybe he did push back. You don't know, do you?
Well, he obviously didn't do a good enough job then, did he?
But you don't have the end say, does it? That's my point.
Well, it's his fighter, isn't it? His management team just shouldn't let it happen. That's my point. If you go to the promoter and say, what's the score here? Can we not move it around a little bit? Or she's not fighting, full stop.
Yeah. Okay. Like I say, mate, it's one of them we're going to have to agree to disagree. How did you see it, Sean?
Yeah, I thought Scotty was brilliant. I suppose you could argue that she beat her better than Bridges done, really. But in terms of the McGuigan thing, I seem to remember an interview he'd done before where he preferred his fighters back to back. I think at Fight Camp, didn't he have Billings, Smith and Fowler on one fight after the other? And I think Joe Gallagher's had it before as well. So
all the work's done. That's right. All the work's done. You don't need him there holding their hands. You know.
I don't agree with mate.
You don't need the magician to be holding pads to warm someone up.
It's not about that, though, is it? It's not just about that. You've got to realise that she's only had 4 professional fights.
Well, then it shouldn't let it happen, should it? So Jack says the Scotney fight was moved. So Jack moved from where to where then, Jack? So was it a case that McGuigan wanted them to fall after each other, like Sean said?
Guys, if you want to join us on screen, Carl's just put the link up again. Click on the link and then Carl will bring you in.
But no, I thought Scotney did well tonight. I thought it was almost a breakout fight.
Well, as Sean's just said, you can argue that she performed better against Roman than Ebony Bridges did. I know it was a weight up, but that's been Roman's weight for the majority of her fights. She came down weight to fight Bridges. Yeah, I think she did a fantastic job. The question is now, how quick do they push her? Because she looked very comfortable in there. You know, I thought her movement was really good for the first half of the fight, and then when she sat down and started trading, she looked in total control. She got hit a bit. Don't get me wrong, she got hit quite a bit, but
well, the only chance that Roman had was by closing the gap, and she couldn't close the gap.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't good enough. But it's probably Scotland's got to go to world level now. There's no more in between, is there, really?
No. Do you want to pick the comment in the sidebar from Francis, Carl?
So Francis says, usually with big name trainers on like that. Usually with big name trainers like that, fighters are close together, they're guaranteed a win before fight starts. So I think what he's saying is when they're so close together like that, normally they're guaranteed a win. Probably dark arts of boxing, I would suggest.
Francis says no. You know, being one of the very many very good journeymen that we've had around the country. We did an interview with Francis last week. Anyone that's not seen it, it's really good. Jump on and watch it.
Evening, Jack.
Right, Jack, how you doing?
Come on then, Jack. Explain your comment.
So apparently there was supposed to be a fight in the middle. I don't know which fight it was, but apparently that got moved around from some. This is just from a mate of mine who was in the arena. On the card, like the running order they got, because I asked him about that, because I thought the same as you, Carl, that it was a bit odd for two of his fighters to be back to back.
Yeah, I just don't think it shouldn't really be happening, Jack, should it?
Not at that level. Like I've been at shows. All right, the promoter's normally the promoter of the show I'm talking about always does it, but he always makes sure there's a fight in the middle between his two guys. And I know you're going to Nottingham. I'd imagine if Scott's got guys that are close together, even as a manager, he doesn't have them back to back. You try and avoid it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, personally, Jack, I think even if somebody else takes a fighter on a pads to warm up, that fighter still wants the coach in there, even if it's just whispering sweet nothings before they go out. They need a bit of confidence, especially when Scotland's only had 4 pro fights in what is by far a biggest fight, by far a biggest test.
Oh no, I agree with you. I think that does actually make sense, particularly in a step-up fight like that, because it was a step-up. I thought she did really well, by the way. I'm not having to go at her performance at all. I thought she was in control. But I did think it was a bit odd that it was back-to-back. Yeah, I agree with you that the coach is one back there. Like, I've being around fighters, even on small hall shows, I know there's particular fighters who like having teams around them. Like, I know of one fighter likes to have both the coaches in there, and I mean I've been in the room with them because it's a superstition thing. Because I went in for one of their fights, they did well. So then for now it's kind of become a superstition thing between the two of us that I go back before their fight. Yeah, and so as you say, it's just something that certain fighters like to have. I don't know. It did seem a bit odd to me as well, and it was only when that's the reason I asked about it to my friend.
Yeah, just I mean, it didn't make a difference, did it? It was okay in the end, but I just think going further down, later on in the career, maybe she'll be a little higher up on the card anyway, and it won't happen. But it could have been the difference for me between winning and losing that fight.
Yeah, the thing is as well with that, is imagine it was a situation, and I know it didn't happen, where it was someone like Craig Richards' trainer, because that was a huge fight for him tonight. I know he had the Bivol fight, but arguably that was bigger because it was domestic.
Yeah.
And can you imagine if he was in that sort of situation and his trainer's just not there for like the fight before?
Yeah.
I know it's unlikely to happen, but it would just be a straight. So, as you say, as she goes up the card, maybe that won't happen. But yeah, it was a bit of an odd one.
Who would you put her in against next, Jack?
I honestly don't know. It would be one that you'd have to sit down, and I'm sure that Matchroom have got a matchmaker, and Eddie will take personal thing because she's that high, little bit higher up the card now. But I'm sure they'll sit down and come up with something. I know she called Bridges out. I wouldn't personally bring her down to bantamweight because
No, me either.
I think there's a very real chance she misses weight because she's quite big at the weight anyway.
Yeah.
And also I think part of her like her snap is because of the extra weight. I think if you brought her down, she might have to spend most of the camp trying to get to the weight. Not because just because she's physically, frame-wise, big for that weight.
Jack, she called out Jessica McCaskill, didn't she?
Sorry?
She called out Jessica McCaskill.
See, that's a good fight, but that's a very big step up.
Yeah, that's who she called out.
How many weights different is that? That's unrealistic.
McCaskill at 147.
McCaskill's welter, isn't she?
Sorry? What's McCaskill at now? Because she went up in weight, didn't she?
She's welter, isn't she?
Yeah, she's 147. That would be a massive jump.
That's what I'm saying. I can understand Chantelle Cameron going up and fighting McCaskill. That makes sense because that's only one weight category.
Yeah, I could understand. I could even understand sort of Katie Taylor going up there, but
yeah, because that's two.
I can't really understand. That would be a huge jump. I don't.
I can't see that happening. That don't make any sense whatsoever.
Does it make any sense from McCaskill either? Really?
Well, no,
really.
No, it's not. It's not. It don't make any money sense for McCaskill.
No. There's a few things. I mean, didn't McCaskill say she wants Shields to come back down, which I don't see happening either.
Shields won't come down.
No, I mean we'll get on to Chantelle Cameron shortly, so I'll leave it till then. But that makes sense for me in a couple of fights' time. Let's move on to the next fight then. Cole's favourite fighter on the bill, Alan Babich.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed this fight. I'll be honest with you. I never thought I'd say it.
And Adam Bauska. It was one of them, wasn't it? The first two rounds it was like seeing two lads coming out of a nightclub that are tanked up on Stella.
Somebody put a tweet out that I agree with. You now need on this. There should be a rule in the UK that Alan Babich. Who's the other two? Ted Cheeseman and somebody else. And I actually added Mason Cartwright to this list. Should be on every card, every TV card in the UK. Just it was Babich, Cheeseman, and Eggington, wasn't it? Oh, Egg, that was it. Yeah. And I added Mason Cartwright because I thought, well, to be honest, let's have an extra one in there, and he's always in an entertaining fight. But yeah, one of them has to be on every card. I mean, as a matchmaker, I'd hate to be matching him. But as a fan, I was sitting there going, yeah, can we have more of this, please?
I don't know where to start with it. I really don't. It's entertaining, but when does it start wearing thin?
Well, I'll tell you one thing it did show tonight. Anyone that can move his head and throw it the odd punch back is going to give Babich problems. because at last he fought someone who could actually move his head and offer a bit of movement, and he was having all kinds of trouble. So,
what do you think? Who's the feedback coming from? What do you think to What do you think to that shot that landed on the bell? They called it after the bell. Was it round 10? Or was it round 8? I can't remember.
Oh, 8, yeah. That was.
Did you think it was?
I think that was
think it was after the bell? Do you think it was on the bell?
It was after the bell, but I think he'd already thrown it before the bell.
it was spent though, wasn't it? It knocked him banded, didn't it? He didn't know where he was.
But he wasn't expecting it, Carl. If you look, he'd relaxed. He wasn't looking at the fighter, so he didn't see it coming. But
And I thought he lost popping his shots the later it went as well, Babich.
respect to both of them. To be fair, I mean they both showed the chin. They both showed durability. But I completely agree with you. I mean, Jack, I think we're getting some really bad feedback off you, mate.
Jack, do you want to try logging on again?
I don't see Babich going anywhere, Carl, if I'm being completely honest.
Well, I've been saying that. How long have I been saying that for? Once he jumps in with a live opponent.
I know. I mean, this fight tonight could have gone either way. If either of them had landed absolutely clean, that would have been good night, wouldn't it? I just it don't seem trainable for me. I mean, they were talking. The commentary tonight, by the way, was absolutely shocking all night long. It was shocking. Andy Lee is brilliant as a trainer. He's not a good commentator. He's poor, mate. He really is poor. He was saying Babich was learning during the fight and changing his style. He wasn't changing his style. He was just knackered. He couldn't stand and throw the bombs anymore because he was knackered.
They both were, weren't they?
Commentary tonight was dreadful. It really was. We're talking about the so-called, as Eddie Hearn puts it, the biggest boxing platform in the world, and you got a commentary like that. From a really respected boxer and coach as well. I just don't think I don't think his forte is commentary.
The only trouble is though, Andy, I'm wanting to like Mike Costello, but I'm not enjoying his commentary either.
No, I got to agree with you, mate.
I think he's still on radio mode, really, isn't he? I mean, he almost Costello, that is. He almost sort of describes the fight as we can't actually see it, like if it was you. For me personally, I prefer Barker and Chris Lloyd. I think they're the best two that they've got, and they should just stick with them the whole night, really.
So, just picking a comment up in the sidebar. That guy's put. To be honest, I thought the punch was in motion. Haven't watched it back. The crowd definitely disagreed. I actually think the punch was in motion when the bell was ringing. The fact that Babich turned away a little bit, wasn't paying attention. Is that Balski's fault?
No.
And the taking a point off him for that is really bad. I think the referee bottled it a little bit because of the antics from Babich's corner and probably from Eddie Hearn, on the front row. I think he bottled it and thought, I better do something here to appease.
Want to pick up Benny Boxing's comment about he thinks Babich is brilliant.
He's absolutely brilliant. He's an absolute nutter. How can you not love the Savage?
I think Benny's on a wind up.
He's a party gimmick, isn't he definitely got the crowd going. I'll give you that. He's entertaining. I'll give you that. Do I want to watch it constantly on a main card like this? No, I don't. because eventually he's going to get knocked spark out by somebody that can take a shot or evade his shots. I mean, after 2 rounds, he was done.
Yeah.
I mean, he was loading up on every single punch. That's his style, and fair enough. And it's worked for him so far. But the more he moves up, as we've spoke about, the more he moves up the levels, the less chance he's got of getting people out there in 2 rounds. I mean, you saw it tonight. You know, he lost his power, he lost his shape, and he ended up, to be honest with you, boxing a little bit better. But that was only because he was knackered. You don't normally box like that. You don't want to box like that. I don't know.
Did you hear Andy Lee saying it's his amateur pedigree coming out towards the end?
Oh, yeah.
This is what I'm talking about with commentary, mate. I don't know. I don't want to dislike Andy Lee or Costello, but I just find myself really struggling with them. I ended up, to be honest with you, in the Buatsi fight, I ended up turning my sound off. And how far away from the ring was Tony Bellew? Because quite, I mean, I think was he watching it from next door? Was he watching it from sat outside the arena? I love Bellew. I love him, but those scorecards was shocking. I mean, he had it a shutout up until about the 9th round, didn't he?
Yep.
We'll get to that in a second. So, if you're Eddie Hearn, Cole, you've got Alan Babich. This is his first fight at Bridgerweight, the fantastic new weight category that boxing's producing. Do you put him in with the Bridgerweight champion right now?
Yes.
Does he beat him?
No.
Does he get knocked out?
I think so. I think Rivas knocks him out. I'm not sure what he's going to do with Babich because does he go back up to heavyweight? He clearly wants to be in the heavyweight division, but I'd be getting a Dave Allen out of retirement and have a big domestic fight. That'd be my call. Isn't it for the money, Babich? He's never going to win a world title. Let's have it right. I'm sure Jack would agree. It'd be quite difficult to match him.
So that guy has put Babich is a Croatian Dave Allen in a way. I hear what he's saying there. Dave, especially the early days of Dave Allen, Eddie Hearn was using him as a bit of a gimmick, like look at what I can do with somebody that's not got a lot of talent kind of situation.
But what I'd say about Dave Allen, at least he understood what his role was.
He did, and he embraced it, and he got better as a fighter. He got much better as a fighter, didn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I don't think he's got many doors open, Babich. Does he jump in with Ergovic? I think he gets absolutely nailed to the canvas in that fight. But it's a payday, so it depends what he wants.
Babich has got all the enthusiasm in the world. He needs to. I think his trainers need to work on him a little bit better. If I'm being completely honest.
So Jack said in the sidebars, Jack, you was getting a bit of interference on your stream, fella. Alan is back fighting, and he would be impossible to match. I'm assuming you talk about Babich. Yeah.
What about Alan versus Babich?
Well, that's what I think should happen. Yeah, I think it belongs on a undercard of a big fight.
Absolutely. Okay, moving swiftly on, lads. Chantelle Cameron versus Victoria Bustos. I'll let you guys give your opinion on this before I bring mine in. Sean, what do you think of the way the fight went? And also, what do you think of Jamie Moore's words of advice during the breaks?
I thought Jamie Moore was excellent. The advice he gave Chantelle, and I think basically she's done everything apart from stop her. Really, I thought it was perfect, and I hope for her sake she gets this unification fight sooner rather than later, because I think she cleans up in a few ways. This one,
Carl?
Yeah, I thought she was class. I tweeted out that I think Jamie Moore's the best up and coming trainer in the UK and Ireland, and I include your fanboy Shane McGuigan. I just think Jamie Moore, bang on, he keeps it calm in the corner, you know, and he just talks sense. There's nobody else talking. I've noticed other trainers have 2 or 3 people talking. Well, that's nonsense. So, yeah, Chantelle Cameron, I think she'll win the next big thing in British female boxing. I can't see anyone around her weight division is going to give her any trouble. And I include going up and down. She's just the real deal.
I completely agree with you. I tweeted out earlier on that Jamie Moore's advice was absolutely spot on, perfect. What was very obvious to me was he talks very, very precisely. He's never flustered. He always stays calm. And I think that would happen even if the fight was in trouble. Even if Chantelle was in trouble, I think he'd be the same. And I think he'd stick to his game plan as well. They clearly had a plan of how they wanted to approach the fight round by round. Because if you notice when they were going back to corners, he was giving her different advice each round. Right, what I want you to do this round is this. Go to the body. Or what I want you to do this round is keep on the jab. Or as the fight was progressing and the way he was seeing the fight going, he gave her a different piece of advice for the next round and she went out and implemented it. She was absolutely outstanding. For me, mate, I know it's a big shout out, but for me, she's the best British fighter right now. She has everything. She has every shot. She's so calm and collected. I mean, you said it, didn't you, Carl, with Richards and Bivol. You said Bivol was in second gear at best. I think Chantelle Cameron was in second gear tonight. She didn't have to do anything else.
Yeah, I agree.
She controlled every round, won it by a shutout. I mean, quite obviously, her next fight needs to be Callie Reese.
They're struggling to pin her down, though, aren't they?
Well, they're saying she's ill, or she's injured, or something along them lines. Tonight was meant to be the undisputed fight, or Chantelle's next fight was meant to be the undisputed fight. She's come out herself in interviews and on her social media and said how frustrated she is with the whole situation. I don't think it's ever been completely cleared up what's wrong with Callie Reese. Is she injured? Or has she just gone into hiding? Yeah, I don't understand it, but that fight needs to happen next. Callie Reese knows the writing's on the wall. Chantelle Cameron's taking her 2 titles to make her undisputed. And then for me, it's what does she do after that?
She moves up.
Yeah, my opinion is she moves up and fights McCaskill, so that'll be undisputed against undisputed. What a great fight that'd be. And
a couple of comments on the side, and just why I can see them. So Jack Gladman said Moore is a great trainer, learned from Oliver Harrison. Yep, agree. Francis says, let's be honest, most that work for Sky talk, he just disappeared. So most that work for Sky talk out their arse and score heavily for the fighter that's meant to win. He goes on to say Babich with his style, yeah, extremely hard to manage. He's just a fan attraction for fans to cheer at, but he needs to value his health, so do his managers.
And what's his last one?
So Jack Gladman says she has an illness, so can't get cleared to box. And then Francis says train him a different way for 5 years, and Babich will go straight back to what his heart tells him, which is to brawl. I think Alan is a tough and resilient for Babich stops him. Francis then goes on to say Jamie Moore is a top boxing man and self-management coach. He's a future in Britain. Agreed.
Absolutely agreed. I think Jamie Moore is by far the best young coach in Britain. He's proved it now with a few fighters, and he's just going to keep on doing it because of the way he trains. Very, 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 very good. Jack, can you clarify? Do you know what the illness is? If it's something long term,
I don't think anyone does do that.
Oh, it may be out there, mate, and we just haven't spotted it. So that guy's put, should Eddie push Cameron more in the US?
Well, all their fighters are coming over to the UK. So.
Yeah, I mean, what the only thing that really does is it makes the undisputed fight a bigger fight worldwide. Because what I think what you're trying to get at there is Cameron hasn't got a name outside the UK because she's not been on any cards anywhere else. So I see your point. At the minute, I mean, if they want to make the Jessica McCaskill undisputed be undisputed after she beats Callie Reese, then she will have to have a bit of a name in the States. So maybe, I don't know, maybe they make sure that the broadcast is live for the undisputed, or maybe they put it on a card in America.
Maybe they just do some promotional work before the big fight. How about that? There's a unique idea. Do what they used to do. Show a bit of context of the fighter and who she is, and a bit of rhetoric of a background.
But we've already said, haven't we, mate? Yeah, but we've already said that don't work for DAZN, does it? Because they've got
it's a mad idea.
It don't work for DAZN, though, does it? Who sees that apart from hardcore boxing?
No, but they can get on to like Good Morning America and all that lot, can't they?
Yeah, don't happen for female fighters, mate. The first time it's ever happened was Taylor against Serrano.
Well, there's your blueprint then.
But they're not going to do it for anyone else. It was only because that was a gigantic fight.
But that will be, won't it?
Garden.
That will be if they give it enough of a push. So Jack says, not sure what illness it is, not public knowledge, and no one in boxing I know has said. Fair enough.
It just maybe she has got a proper illness. Maybe I'm doing a disservice, but it stinks a little bit. I don't know. Chantelle Cameron's got a decision to make then, because if this is a long-term thing, maybe she has to move up and fight McCaskill straight away. And then
how about the governing body stripping her then if she's not fit enough to fight?
Yeah. Well, there's
another unique thing that might happen.
Yeah, because that don't happen very often, does it? I guess time tells. They'll give her so long. They'll give her probably a year, won't they? Until the next mandatory is due for that belt, or for either the two belts. I mean, she holds. Callie Reese holds the WBA and the WBO, I believe.
No one knows who she is to do that. You talk about Chantelle Cameron's profile. Well, we don't know. No one's heard of her.
No, not over here. She's obviously got some sort of a profile in America. That's where they had the unification fight.
Has she got a profile in America? Do we know?
Well, she's gonna have more of a profile there than here. Isn't she? She's an American fighter, for God's sake.
Don't mean jack with the American boxing fans, does it?
Well, true enough. Which is why the undisputed fight will take place in the UK. I'm guessing.
I think Chantelle Cameron can drag the big names over to the UK and start building a profile for the American market. Anyway, that's my view.
So Jack Gladman in the sidebar has put Layla Raleigh and Christie was on Good Morning USA in the 2000s. Serrano versus Taylor was second one. Sorry, I stand corrected, Jack. But why was Layla Raleigh on it though, mate? I think the answer.
I mean, don't get hung up on Good Morning America. There's other shows in America. My point being that if you give them a push and the promoters actually do the job stateside,
I hear you.
Ways of building a profile.
No, I hear you, mate. I hear you. But what I'm saying is, female boxing in the States is not anywhere near at the level that female boxing in the UK is, promotion wise and attraction wise. That's why they made such a big thing of Serrano Taylor. I mean, what should happen is they should jump on the back of Serrano Taylor and make a big thing and push it.
Go on, Sean.
I was going to say it's only really Michaela Mai that they really push and put out there over there, isn't it? Really, apart from that, you wouldn't really know who any of the American female fighters are.
the problem is you've got too many old school promoters in America, too many old school boxing men, as they like to call themselves, boxing guys, that refuse to acknowledge female boxers, refuse to acknowledge female fighters. And while you've got that mentality, it's never going to take off. It's never going to become what we've got it over here. You know, Eddie Earn's done I moan about Eddie Earn on a lot of things, but
done a great job.
He's done an outstanding job with female boxing. You know, Katie Taylor being the kind of the flag bearer for that, and he's gone on that ride with her. But he's brought lots and lots of other fighters through and made them very wealthy, you know, and got them into world title positions, and he's done brilliantly with them. It's just a shame other countries don't treat female fighters in the way that they should. So Francis has put, I think he's talking about Jamie here, I believe. He genuinely is passionate for his fighters. Jamie cares about them, wants to improve them. Yeah, completely agree, mate. And he's also gone on to say, is Eddie Earn even doing that well in the US? ? He's attacked the market like it's British fans. It doesn't wash over there. DAZN even thought billions are leaking money. Yeah, I think what Francis is saying there is what we've kind of echoed on other shows, where Eddie Earn's gone in there like a bulldozer, and tried to take over like he did over here in England, and it just hasn't worked. They've kind of shut up shop, haven't they? No one works with him. I mean, he's got Golden Boy Promotions is about the only outfit that want to do any fights with him. The others just they don't like Eddie's brash attitude, and that's it. They're done. They just don't put fighters on his shows, and they don't line fighters up to fight his fighters. And if you've got that, how'd you build fighters? How'd you build a platform? How'd you take on American fighters if no other American promoters want to put their fighters in with them? Makes it really difficult. Francis has gone on to say, I think Taylor Serrano will be a trilogy and change women's boxing forever. I'm not sure about that, Francis. I think Katie Taylor's only got one fight left. I do believe that she'll fight Serrano next, but I think it'll be a farewell fight in Ireland. He's also gone on to say Baumgardner is also red hot talent in women's boxing. Think she will be a superstar. I've got to agree, mate. I think Baumgardner has got outstanding skill.
Where did she make her name, though?
Over here, mate. It's really difficult. Once fighters have come over here and fought and see the passion of British fans, they go back to the States and then you get damp squids again, and where the crowd's not reacting, and I think they just think, I need to be back in England. I need to be fighting in front of them crowds. You know, she's been on Baumgardner's been on two shows now, hasn't she? I could see her coming back over again and you know, challenging for other titles over here. It makes more sense for her. Okay, moving on, guys. On to Buatsi Richards. How did you see this one going, Sean?
I mean, I wouldn't have argued if it was a draw, really. I don't know what planet Bellew was on. I think he had Buatsi 7-up or something, didn't he, after 7? And yeah. I have no clue what he was watching. But I think if Craig Richards sort of sustained his attacks more when he was on top, he would have won more rounds and got more credit from the judges. I think the trouble he had, he was a bit too sort of not scared, but he was certainly wary when to sustain his attacks. And I don't think Buatsi hurt him as such. I just think he was worried about getting caught with one. When I think if he pushed on with his fight more, I think he could have won on points and potentially stopped Buatsi in the later rounds, because I thought Buatsi looked almost out on his feet at some points in that fight.
Buatsi was fighting in bursts, wasn't it? He'd land some brilliant combinations, or, you know, they might throw a 5 or 6 shot combination. 2 of them were landing, but the Sky commentators were saying all of them were landing.
DAZN.
DAZN commentators were saying all of them were landing. But then he'd back off. Like, he knew his engine wasn't good enough to fight like that for the whole fight, which is concerning when you go up. There's going to be certain fighters that won't give him a rest, and then he'll be in trouble.
I think it's just another one of these tales where he's been built up and built up and built up, and he's just not world class. I think he proved it tonight. I think if Richards would have kept it at range, he couldn't miss with that right hand when he was throwing his right hand. But he got dragged into Buatsi's fight where he started fighting on the inside. Why ever he was fighting on the inside so much, I'll never know when you've got levers like he has.
Yeah.
So I think if he would have kept it ranger, I think he would have stopped Buatsi quite late. Because I agree with Sean. I think that tank was emptying. He was whinging a lot about low blows as well. Buatsi wanting, it looked like he started to get roughed up a little bit. And I know they called Bivol out afterwards. One thing Bivol ain't going to do is give you a minute to breathe.
No. And
he leaves himself wide open when he throws a combination. He throws a combination, then doesn't come out with a jab. He just pulls out the combination. Whereas we all know Bivol's a counter puncher. So yeah.
So Jack Gladman's put he had it 6-5 Richards. I even much to Steffi, but I'm not sure what that means. Confusion. P.S. Was Bellew still in Bilbao? I think he's on about Bellew's scorecard there. Let's have the rest of you in the sidebar. How did you score the fight? I mean, I had it as close as 7-5. If I'm being honest, I thought it was really close, and I agree with you, Cole. Richards could have made the fight a lot easier for himself. I think it was a case of he wanted to man up against, and he didn't need to do it. He got, like you say, he got dragged into that fight, and he didn't need to do it. He was having loads of success when he was fighting on the outside, throwing them long levers, getting those wide hooks in, and even the uppercuts. Buatsi was great inside until the later rounds. And even in the later rounds, close up, Richards was having a lot of success. But
the thing I worry about with Buatsi, though, Eddie and Wax was lyrical about him. And all I've seen is that he can dominate British and European level. But I'd worry about throwing him up into world level. Who's he beat? Does he beat Callum Smith?
No.
So we're to get that challenge before he jumps in for the world title. Because don't tell me he's going in with Bivol next. Although it could work if Canelo does go down Triple G route. You can't be jumping from a Spider Richards into a Bivol. You just can't be doing it. So he needs to find that fringe world level. Who that is, I don't know. But for me, it's not world class. And the irony of having Conor Ben in the studio saying Buatsi's got a reputation, and it's full of hype, and now he needs to deliver, or words to that effect. The irony in that one was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So no, it's a no from me. I don't know, but I mean, Virgil on top. Andy Lee called him the best cornerman in the world. Well, he didn't do very well last week, did he?
He didn't do very well tonight either. There was too many voices in that corner again, mate. Like you spoke about earlier on with Jamie Moore. It's just Jamie Moore. No one else says a single thing.
And I don't like this persona that Buatsi is now adopting of being a bad man. In the corner, one of the trainers, one of the many trainers that were in that corner, putting ice on his face, and he pulled it away, and his attitude just didn't look like it where it needed to be. So
I mean, at one stage,
Good shout in the sidebar though. Maybe Callum Johnson, a Yard, even a Lyndon Arthur. Maybe throw him in with. Let's see. I don't know.
Yeah, Jack Gladman's put Callum Johnson beats Boatse, he does, and so does Callum Smith. Francis has put he scored it 7 rounds to 5. Boatse. It was a close fight. Very close. Richards was winning on the inside, though. Looked like Boatse was landing everything. A lot missed. I agree with you, mate. Commentary, that's the problem with commentary. They were saying everything he was throwing in the early rounds was landing, and they weren't. When they showed you the slow-mos, hardly any of them landed.
Spider Richards wasn't meant to win tonight, was it? Let's be honest. He wasn't meant to win tonight, was it?
No, because they want to push Boatse in, and that's what annoys me about DAZN commentary, because they all kind of stand by each other. Not one of them. I mean, everybody. I mean, the card from Tony Bellew tonight was just really, really poor. But none of them turned around and said, "Hold on a minute, I don't think that's right, Tony." They just kept on saying, "Our scorecard." No, it's Tony Bellew's scorecard. Have you not got your own minds, lads? Our scorecard's got Boatse a mile up. Hold on a minute. I just take a look at yourselves, guys. Really.
I think they have their own favourite fighters, though, especially when they're 2 matchroom guys. Because if you remember, when Liam Smith fought Fowler, that they would have loved Fowler to beat Smith.
It's always the same, mate. It's the same anytime Lee Wood fights. They always favour the other fighter. It's frustrating. It's whatever narrative Eddie Hearn wants them to say, they'll say. And it shouldn't be like that. I mean, we've spoke about it a number of times. You don't get that with Andy Clark. You don't get that with Paul Smith Jr. When them two are on commentary, they don't even agree with each other half the time. You know, you can hear them disagreeing in commentary, but that's good because it means they've got their own opinions and they're not scared to say them. The thing for me is sometimes these commentators are scared to lose their jobs. They're scared to give a proper opinion because it won't look good for the fighter that's being pushed by that promotion. It's not just his own either. It was happening on Sky as well, and still does. You know, say it as it is, lads. That's all anybody wants to hear. I understand you want your fighter to win. I understand, but you can't be biased to the point where you're calling something that's not even there.
But they're all, like you said, they're all at it, aren't they? The majority, anyway. You know, how many times we watch some of the American cards and you're thinking, how are they? You know, some of the comments that they're making are so partisan towards the own fighter. Yeah.
Yeah.
It spoils the sport that we love, doesn't it? To be honest. So, do I pick some of them comments on the side of Banda?
Okay. So that guy's put Eddie will never make Smith v Boatse. Completely agree with you, mate. He's never gonna, for whatever reason, he just doesn't push Smith, does he? I don't understand why. I don't see the thing there. Boatse gets beat by Smith, gets knocked out by Smith. In fact, that's just my opinion. Jack Gladman, he's put, this isn't wrestling. If I mess up a match when matchmaking, I will hold my hands up. Don't need a let off. I think basically what he's saying is that these commentators ought to be calling things out a bit more straight down the line. Francis Crows has put, Liam Smith is the most solid of all round world-class fighters from that family on a consistent basis, etc. Did Ward make Virgil look better than he is as a coach. What do you reckon to that?
No. I
think what he's saying is Andre Ward was that good.
Yeah, exactly. He could have coached himself.
Look better than he was.
Yeah, I agree.
A good coach owns the corner like more. Completely agree with you, Francis. And then he's going to say they fool the fans. They do as well because a lot of fans buy into it. And it is very easy to fall into the trap of listening to the commentary and thinking like they're thinking. Very easy to fall into it, which is why I turned the sound off during Bawatsi Richards, because after four or five rounds, I was just sick and tired of hearing what they were saying.
So Francis says it's easier to give the fighter who is meant to win. Don't you think all commentators do it? They are under the whip of the promoter.
Not all commentators, Francis. Like I've said, Andy Clark is very straight down the line. Paul Smith Jr. is very straight down the line. They're not afraid to say what they think. They've said it. They've done it themselves on the new promotion they're working on now. Probellum. They've gone against Probellum fighters when they've lost. They've just said it how it is. They're not scared that Probellum are going to turn around and say, "Hold on a minute, lads. You know, you're meant to be commentating for us. It shouldn't be like that. It should be straight down the line. You got to give them a lot of respect for being like that." So Francis has gone on to say something slightly different. He's saying put 5 judges on an open scoring for everyone in the venue to see. He's on about judges and judging not being right there, isn't. So instead of having 3 judges, he's saying let's have 5. And I think, Francis, you said it on our interview with you, didn't you? That let everybody in the venue and let everybody that's watching it on TV see what the judges have scored after every round. Make them put it on the screen. Then there can't be any, oh, hold on a minute, our fighter's not doing so well here. Let's cross that score out and change it to this score. Allegedly. We're seeing too many scorecards, aren't we, like that at the minute? Something definitely needs to change.
Jack says Enzo Mack calls it down the middle as well. He does, but how often do you see him on TV?
Yeah, not often enough. Not often enough.
I think Carl Frampton's that as well, saying it how it is.
Say again, mate.
I think Carl Frampton's brilliant at saying it how it is as well.
Yeah, him and Enzo, they've got no loyalty have they when it comes to things like that. They don't feel like they've got to act a certain way. Enzo's always been a bit of a live wire, hasn't he? And he says it how it is, and that's maybe why they don't have him on so much, because they never know what they're going to get from him. But that's good because he sees it the way he sees it. And I don't always agree with Enzo, but at least he's giving you his honest opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, what would you do next then with Bawatsi Cole?
Well, I think the obvious one, I won't be throwing him straight in with Bivol, although I've got a bad feeling that might happen. I would throw him in with Callum Smith. I know Callum Smith's heading out to California in the next few days to start a camp, so he's obviously got someone in mind. I mean, when was Callum Smith last out? So another couple of months not hurt, will it? So that'd be a damn good fight as well, to be honest. Although I think
Callum Smith's in the final eliminator on the AJ card in Saudi.
Right, has that been announced now, has it?
Yeah.
Has his opponent been announced?
No, but I think it's a WBC final eliminator he's in.
About time as well.
So with that in mind, then with the timings, I would suggest it could well be Bivol next time if Canelo goes down the Triple G route.
I'm not convinced that Canelo will take that fight again, because if he loses, where does he go? It's a big risk, isn't it?
And he's still a damn good super middleweight now,
Yeah, absolutely. That guy's asked a question about Robbie Davis Jr. Should Davis Jr. take the Molina rematch before thinking about anything else? It was a very close scorecard, wasn't it, mate? I mean, you can argue that it could have been seen either way, depending on what the judges liked. I think Davis Jr. should take it just because I don't think he thinks himself that he lost that fight as well. Will he take it again? I don't think they go anywhere near him.
He looks like an honest type of kid, though, don't he? So he might want to jump in and right that wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends on what is or how much he lets his management, trainer, and promoter make all those decisions for him. Some fighters just let them get on with it, don't they? And then they just fight whoever. I don't know whether Robbie's one of them or whether he has a big input. I guess we'll see. We'll see on his next fight. So Jack Gladman's put Bivol wants better BF if Canelo goes for Triple G. If he beats BF as well, don't he, Carl?
Oh, every day of the week. Better BF just a one-trick pony for me. He's just a puncher.
And I think he's a little bit over the hill as well. He's not the fighter he was of a few years back. I think Bivol cleans that division up. The real question for me is Canelo's ego is going to be tested a little bit here, because I know it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek from Bivol, but Bivol said he'll even come down to super middleweight to fighting for all 4 belts. Will Canelo's ego stop that from happening?
And also, in terms of Better BF versus Bivol, isn't Better BF promoted by Top Rank? Yeah. So then you've got all that permutations, haven't you? Regarding broadcasters, etc., where Bivol and Buatsi are both on DAZN.
Yeah. Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? It's frustrating, this promotion thing in boxing, because it stops loads of fights happening when they should. You know, they tend to happen when one fight has passed it, and then that's when a certain promoter will go, okay, I'll let him fight him now because he's in a win-win situation. He's past his best. If he wins,
I'm just thinking also, and I'm thinking with Top Rank Sky deal, DAZN aren't going to be in any rush to let a fight like that land on Sky Sports, are they?
No, it'll be one of them, won't it? It'll get to first bids. So Francis has put Enzo and Frampton are in love with the sport and not checks. So speak from the heart. Absolutely, mate. Completely agree. You know, they're not getting a paycheck on a weekly basis, are they? Or a monthly basis, like some of these other guys are. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating, some of the commentary of recent times. Jack Gladman's put Beterbiev has separate TV now. What does that mean, mate? Similar to AJ. Does it mean he's free? He's like he's contract out and he's free? If it does, then that fight happens, don't it? It can be made.
Yeah.
It will happen. Francis has put, it will happen. Eddie is smart. Bivol v. Buatsi. I expect that next. Keep Bivol up there and busy and relatively comfortable. Win for Canelo to fight Triple G. Canelo beats Triple G easily this time, in my opinion, because Triple G is not half the fighter he was. He struggled a little bit, in my opinion, in that last fight. He hasn't got the legs anymore. Canelo will I don't think Canelo stops him even now, but I think it'll be a bit of a beating. And Bivol goes on and you know what is interesting is he beats Buatsi. If Bivol fights Buatsi, he beats him. Does Eddie Hearn then automatically try and make the fight with another one of his light heavies, i.e. Smith?
Especially if Smith can pick up the WBC belt in between. I think that's more realistic if he picks the WBC up.
So that guy's put, we're great for fans if we knew timelines for some of these fighters' deals. Kill off the ducking and dive in and chatter on social media. It seems, it's especially with American fighters, it seems that's all they do, is they just talk a good game. And then they go and pick a paycheck up for fighting a nobody. That seems to be the American way at the minute, especially PBC. You know, they pay the fighters an absolute fortune.
Silly money.
To fight nobodies. Where's the incentive to fight a world champion for the same money? You know, another world champion under another promoter, for example. Where's the incentive to do it? Why is that fighter going to take the risk of losing his own to fight for the same amount of money in a 50-50 fight? It's just the way they look at it. These American fighters, unfortunately, it's all about the money and not about legacy, which is sad. Which is sad when you think about, you know, back to fighters of the 80s and 70s and even 90s even. You know, it was all about beating the best. It was all about legacy. It's not like that no more. There's too much money flying about. Cole, do you want to pick up these next couple?
Francis says he's technically too good for Beterbiev. For me, Bivol, box clever and smart, weren't engaged like he never with Canelo. And then Francis says, he didn't know that. He didn't know? Yeah, Francis, I think he's talking about Beterbiev regarding the TV deal, not Bivol.
Oh, right, okay.
Who do we think that eliminators against then, Sean, for Callum Smith?
I wouldn't know, but I would have thought it's someone that Callum Smith would beat, because I think he's at a more comfortable weight for him now. I think super middleweight, he was too drained at that weight. And I think he probably gives Bivol the closest fight out of all the options he's got at light heavyweight, purely because of his size and power.
Yeah. I mean, Yard's right up there, but obviously due to the promotional issues, it'd be nice for Callum Smith to fight Anthony Yard, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Where's Yard sat with the WBC? Isn't Yard higher up in the WBO?
I'm just checking.
I think he's number one with the WBO at the moment, Yard.
Yeah. Yeah, because that last fight, with Yard was a WBO eliminator, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think Yard sat at number 3 in the WBC.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a great fight to make then, isn't it? Francis has put. I think he means Canelo's put. Canelo stops Triple G now. Canelo is prime Triple G, aging massively. Yeah, he is aging massively, mate. You're right. He didn't look very good in his last outing. Jack Gladman's put Yard is WBO mandatory. It's been called. And Francis has put. I think ref.
Yeah, I think Yard's fighting. Is it Smith Jr. later on in the year? I think Warren's called that out. I think.
Is that the one fight Smith Jr. has each year then?
Yeah, I think it's happening in the UK as well, from what Warren was saying.
Really?
I think it's all signed.
Smith Jr. fighting Beterbiev though, isn't he?
First, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's why Yard's been waiting around then, is it?
I think it's whoever wins that fight, Yard's going to pick up a fight against them. So, and that's a good fight, that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think Yard's good enough to be either of them, if I'm honest. I don't think he's learned a lot in his last few fights. Callum Smith for me is still the best light heavyweight. I know he's only had one fight at light heavyweight, but he's the best light heavyweight in Britain for me. I have a lot of time for Callum Smith. I think he's fantastic. He wasn't pushed off enough when he was in his prime at super middleweight. He then goes and fights Canelo at super middleweight when he's at the point where he's struggling to make the weight. Didn't get long enough camp for that fight either. I'm not saying he was weight drained, but I think it took him all of his camp to get down to the weight, and then he didn't have enough time to replenish and be right on fight night, because he had to lose it quickly because he didn't get enough camp.
But that wasn't Callum Smith in that ring, was it?
No. And obviously you got that injury straight away, didn't you? Very smart from Canelo, where he targeted Smith's left bicep, and then he just couldn't throw anything. Then could he?
We get the announcement next week about AJ versus Usyk as well, don't we?
It's looking like Saudi, isn't it?
Definitely.
When are we thinking that's happening, Cole? July?
Yeah, they reckon July. That's interesting. Jack Gladman said, I wonder what weight Billy Joe Saunders returns in October. It's got to be super middle, hasn't it?
Is he actually coming back then, Jack? I've still got doubts he even makes it, mate. I mean, I know rumours can be false on social media, but by all accounts, he's put on quite a bit of weight, hasn't he?
He won't leave it like that. I've said that all along, haven't I?
Who's he going to fight then?
I don't know.
They reckon John Ryder.
That fight makes sense. That fight makes sense, don't it, for both of them, really?
Yeah.
I mean, the only one that really makes sense for me, I don't think it happens because they're both going to demand too much money, is Eubank Jr. for Billy Joe Saunders to make a lot of money on, as like a farewell fight. But I don't see it happening because they both demand too much money, and it doesn't make that amount of money on a show for me anymore. It's not the big attraction it once was.
Yeah. So Francis put, even though he was world champion, I still think he'd been a waste of talent. Could have been so much better and achieved so much more. Everything he achieved was off natural ability.
Are we talking about Billy Joe there?
I'd imagine so, yeah.
Yeah.
So Jack Gladman says, I've heard yes, and probably Andre. I'm assuming that's Billy Joe. Now that would be a good fight.
At super middleweight.
At super middle.
Yeah, that fight. Is Andre still with Matchroom?
Well, we don't know, do we?
He's leaving, won't there?
Yeah, I think he's got one.
If he is, then that fight gets made easily, don't it?
I think he's got one more fight deal with DAZN, I think I read.
Right, okay. I mean, because obviously he's injured, isn't he? So the fight at the baseball ground is not happening now because he's injured.
Did we say he's on Thursday night? I haven't been to baseball ground since about 1986.
Still the baseball ground for me, mate. They were the glory days.
Yeah, but it's not even the same stadium.
I know it's not, but that's where my timeline is as a Forest fan. Glory old days, taking Forest down to the baseball ground.
How have they announced anything about Parker?
Say again, mate.
Have they announced any sort of replacement or who will fight Parker?
No, it's frustrating for him, isn't it? Bless him. He finds it hard to get fighters. He's been sat at that number one spot for a while now.
I know S-Jam have been having a bit of an exchange with Neil Marsh about maybe Lerone Richards, but the position that Zach Parker's in, where it's basically a mandatory intake, waiting for his chance. I think Neil Marsh says, why would we, basically.
I can see Neil Marsh's standpoint on that, but what a great domestic fight that'd be.
It would.
It would be nice to see that happen with them both as champions, though. Let's get them, because at some point, Canelo, I can't see him just sitting there and taking voluntaries or mandatories and mandatories at super middleweight. That does nothing for him. I don't think. He'll have to go somewhere else for another challenge, or retire at some point. Besides that, managers will get called, and eventually the belts will get split. So, that suits everybody. You'll get a few more champions, and maybe down the line, a couple of years' time, perhaps you might see that happen. Lerone Richards is quality, into real good.
Yeah, hence why they struggled to match him.
Okay, Carl. 1 hour 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you want to bring it to a close, pal?
Yeah. So, Sean, cheers for joining tonight, fella. Much appreciated. Thank you for all the comments in the sidebar. Really brilliant night again. Live again Thursday at 7 p.m. UK time. Feel free to come and join us. This is Last Bell Boxing in partnership with Southampton Bar Nottingham. Signing off. See you on Thursday.
Cheers, guys.